So, let's be a little reading here. Yes. Was that a geography task? Well, is it on the map at all? Now you have to remember the textbook. The textbook references an atlas that's out of print, and I suspicion is in the atlas that you have it here. Is that in yours? This was the atlas that was the atlas we used to use, and I'm sure in their map it's there. So they were trying to get you to use the book but the book's out of print now. So sorry. Oh, Erdman. Check the Erdman dictionary. That might be. Yeah. All right. Well done. Points for you. She's from my parish. Of course, some of you are. Yeah. All right. You've been picked on. You're going to be the teacher's pet now, and you get beat up during recess. You always were? Well, okay. So, chapter 19. On the third new moon, after the people of Israel had gone forth out of the land of Egypt, on that day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. Verse 3. And Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him out of the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the people of Israel. Now, we have not dealt with Jacob yet. When we get to Genesis, we're going to find out that Jacob is one of the ancestors. He was a grandson of Abraham. He had 12 sons, and so he's kind of, his name is like a nickname for the whole people of God. Like Uncle Sam is a nickname for the whole American nation. Huh? Verse 4, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, my berith, you shall be my own possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. So Moses is acting as mediator. God does not speak these words directly to the people. He speaks them to Moses. It's really a key passage. There's a reflection on the past. What did I do? I lifted you up as on eagle's wings and brought you here by myself as a free gift. We in New Testament language, by grace, we would say. Not because we deserve it, but by grace, God has done this for us. All right? And then, that's the past. And then presently, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my own possession. Now, the language isn't one we reflect on as marriage talk, but it is it's marriage language. Possession is the part that, of course, rubs us the wrong way, huh? But in Old Testament terms, this a covenant is an agreement. It's a marriage, huh? So the past was gift. The present is, will you walk with me, and I will be your God, and you'll be my people. That's the current conditional if. And if so, then comes the future. You shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Let's talk about holiness. We're going to deal with holiness more next month when we read Leviticus. But this is the first time, by the way, that holiness appears in the text that we've been reading. The Hebrew word is kadosh, if that matters to you. What it means literally is set apart. We used to, I think I must be referring to some old TV program. Maybe it was Beverly Hillbillies. Your Sunday go to meeting clothes. Okay? Yeah. Was it Beverly Hillbillies? Okay. So, holy is set apart. It's different. Where the opposite of holy is common. So the opposite of holy is not sinful. The opposite of holy is common, ordinary. All right? So we're going to later we're going to read, not this year, not even next year, but we're going to read the story of the call of Isaiah the prophet. He's in the temple, and suddenly he's got a vision, and he sees angels who sing back and forth. to God, about God. Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God of hosts. What they're saying is other, different, beyond your comprehension. I mean, in a way, holy means different. I mean, that God is not what we think he is. God is not common, not ordinary. He is set apart. He is other. Again, as Christians, we think of holiness, we think of statues, that kind of, that real washed out white complexion, and they're so thin not to be human, and they don't have any. That's what we think of holiness. No. Holiness literally means other, and God is the most other. And to the degree that you and I are like God, we share in that otherness, that set apartness. Okay, do you follow that? I want to flush your minds of the Christian idea that holiness is uptight, unable to live, not really human, a plaster statue. That's not holy. Okay? That's hardly even human. Often. They don't look human. A lot of statuary just strikes me as not being human looking. But holiness means set apart. Kadosh means set apart. God is the supremely different, set apart. And to the degree that we are like God, it may be said of us. Okay? You are a holy people, set apart. You are God's people. And priests in the Old Testament were to be holy, that is, set apart. But they didn't own property. They didn't farm. They didn't, they lived differently. And so that's where being called a nation of priests is a compliment. You may not feel it today, but it's a compliment. Priest's job is to offer sacrifices, is to speak to God for the people. A prophet's job is to speak to the people for God. But a priest speaks to God for the people. And that's part of, so in that statement, Yahweh is telling Moses that his group is going to be different than the rest of the world. They're set apart. They're God's own. They are, in the King James Bible, peculiar. Now, we think of peculiar as odd, but it's a Latin word. It means set apart. Like you put your seal on something that's mine. In the Vulgate, the word was peculium. It's a Latin word for something set apart by seal. It came into English as peculiar. Peculiar doesn't have a very positive connotation anymore, but it was meant to be so. All right. So there's past grace, present conditional invitation, future what you will become. Look at verse 8. The first time the people speak, they say, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. Now, the Lord hasn't given any laws yet. But they say this. And it's going to reappear. That phrase will reappear at the end of this lesson. This lecture. Twice in chapter 24, the people will say, everything God has spoken, we will do. We will do. Okay, so in a sense, there's kind of like an opening and a closing echo. The people are all in. Curiously, aside, the very next thing they're going to say, the next time they speak in chapter 32 is to Aaron, make of us a new God. We don't know what happened to Moses. That's the next time they speak. So it's like getting married, I marry you and say, hey honey, let's go for a quickie. Okay, that's kind of what, that's how it plays out. The next time the people voice their opinion, they're saying to Aaron, make us a new God. Okay? But we won't get to that part till next time. But I wanted you to see it now. Because you've got to remember that it sounds very noble, but the reality isn't always there. Verse 9. The Lord said to Moses, so Moses goes back up the hill, okay, and the Lord speaks to him, lo, I am coming to you in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you, and may also believe you forever. But why a thick cloud? To protect them. We talked about last time, no one sees the face of God and lives. So when God appears in a cloud, he's not trying to hide, he's trying to protect. If you go walking into a power plant, they're going to want to robe you in lead. Huh? The lead is to protect you. It's not to hide the plant from you. Then Moses told the words of the people to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Let them wash their garments and be ready by the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. And you shall set bounds for the people round about, saying, take heed that you do not go up into the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall be stoned or shot. Yick, yes. Now, this does not make for a warm and fuzzy picture of God, huh? Again, next time, we will read Leviticus, and we're going to get all about the idea of how distance, not only is the cloud meant to protect, distance is meant to protect. Okay? In Jesus' day, Gentiles could only get so close to the temple. There was a wall about 3 feet high, all the way around the temple area, with a big sign on it, carved in Latin and in Greek and in Hebrew, saying all Gentiles may not go beyond this line. If you do, your life is in your own hands. You will be, so in a sense, Judaism later indeed lived by this law. That is, the law. It's a law being shot. You know, it's Moses didn't have to do that to anybody. This is a future law that if you go beyond the boundary where you're supposed to go, you break a law, you break a line, and therefore there's a punishment for that. Okay, but the point is, God protects the people by robing himself in cloud and by keeping them at a distance. Only Moses goes up and down. Okay, the escalator. He is the mediator. Okay, that's his important role. Look at verse 15. He said to the people, be ready by the third day. Do not go near a woman.
Yeah, that one.
Why? Again, this will become clearer next time when we talk about clean and unclean things. It may give you this kind of feeds into the sense that some Christians have that all sex is wrong and bad. Huh? That's not the point here. Actually, the Old Testament, has a rather robust, positive attitude about sexuality. What the Old Testament is concerned about is uncleanliness. That is not dirt, but you're going to come to the concept of the unclean, which means disrespecting boundaries. If you cross a boundary, it's like in football, you go out of bounds. You can't come right back in and tackle a player because you're out of bounds. Someone's got to touch you to bring you back into play. If you do certain things, it makes you out of bounds. It's not a moral fault. It's not because you're a bad person. Doing your family stuff will require you occasionally to be out of bounds. Women having their monthly period, it puts you out of bounds. Not because sex is icky, but because you're passing blood. Blood is sacred. Anytime, if I cut you with a knife, you're unclean. If I get your blood on me, I'm unclean. If I'm a butcher, I'm made unclean by these things, which are, blood belongs inside a body. When it comes outside the body, it's not where it should be. And in touching it, it's unusual, you're out of bounds. Okay? So in sexual relationship, there's fluids that pass. Semen. When semen passes, it's out of bounds. Okay? Again, it's not a negative comment about sex. It's a way of viewing the world that it's a kind of a primitive way of looking at how the body functions, and that when things are inside the boundary of the skin, that's what it's meant to be. So when you bleed, when you have terrible acne, when you have leprosy, when you bury your mother, those are touching a corpse, makes you unclean. Okay? So get out of your mind that this has all got to do with being bad. It's bad. It's just the ritual structure of Judaism, that when you do these things, you're out of bounds.